Barcelona off to a winning start in this season's Champions League at St James's Park. As we welcome in Luis Garcia, we've also got Don Hutchison with us as well. We'll talk to both of those guys in just a moment. I do want to start back with you, Craig, about Marcus Rashford absolutely turning on for his side tonight.
Yeah, and he has to, because he's on loan at one of the best teams in Europe. He's been given this great opportunity off the back of doing not a lot at United and a little bit at Villa. So he has this magnificent chance, albeit he was in tonight because Lamine Yamal is injured. So getting game time from him will be difficult, you would imagine, but not if he's doing that. That's going to say to Hansi Flick, you know, give me more game time. This is what I can do for you. He was brilliant. He looked sharp on that left-hand side. He looked pacey. He was direct. Obviously, his 2 goals are the talking point. The second one was just absolutely outstanding. But that's what Marcus Rashford has to do if he wants to earn a move to Barcelona full-time, which I don't know if it's going to happen, or if he wants to earn a move somewhere else after his loan spell. He's back in the shop window, and the more performances he puts on like this, the better chance he has at getting away from Manchester United, which ultimately United want, and ultimately Marcus Rashford wants. So a brilliant, brilliant performance from Rashford. And I've got to say, from Barcelona in the second half, they really controlled and dominated the game, not just with possession, but with their closing down. They really closed down in 3s and 4s and pressed the ball in Newcastle's half, and they struggled, Newcastle that is, to retain possession. And that was a big problem for them in the second 45.
A really positive display from Rashford tonight, absolutely paying off that faith that his coach has shown in him, Luis.
Yeah, and we've been talking a lot lately about him, that he could show what he's good at, that is that strength, that speed, that power that he's got. He's good at good finishing. But in tight spaces, he was going to have trouble. We saw in the first game against Mallorca, he was trying to find his gaps, trying to drop, asking the ball, and he was struggling a little bit. And today, I think we can see a little bit. We've seen a glimpse of what Rashford can provide to this Barcelona. When he's on with the space at the back, Trippier couldn't handle the speed, the power, that direction. He doesn't hesitate any time to try and face you on 1v1, because he knows that he's got ability, he's got skills, and of course that fantastic touch. I like this understanding with Rafinha. We saw it on one assist in the last game. Today, try a couple of times, and this understanding between him and Rafinha is something that we are going to see quite often. He's got that ability to see the runs on opponent, on teammates, and today try a couple of times again to the diagonals of Rafinha is something that for Barcelona is also new. Those fantastic transitions going forward.
And now he's just got to keep it up, Don, like Craig was saying at Barcelona.
Correct. I think my takeaway from looking at Marcus Rashford tonight, take away the 2 goals, I think he looked physically fit. It looks like he's muscled up at the same time. So now he's at a proper football club where the demands are so high. The coach, the players inside that dressing room will put that on Marcus Rashford. I think it's never been in question about Rashford's ability. He can do it on the football pitch, but what's his lifestyle like away from the football pitch? That never really gets him fully fit consistently on the pitch. Now I think at Barcelona he's got a brilliant opportunity, as I said, because the demands are so high, and he has to be on it, and he has to be fit, and he has to live his lifestyle right, because you see the performance in the second half. He was quiet in the first half. It was a tight game for him. Trippier handled him quite well, but the second half he turned it on. The first header was immaculate. The second goal was a wonderful strike. I've seen him do that for Man United against Man City in a Manchester derby a few years ago. Thunderbolt of a shot, and then he grew in confidence. He played with a bit of swagger, and that's what you want to see from him.
Is there anything that Hansi Flick will be looking at in this game, knowing that Newcastle were getting their chances and that late on there was that goal as well?
Well, Gerard Martin's, I don't think he's Hansi Flick's favourite player, and he was a weak link a little bit in the first half on the left-hand side. Alanga had the sort of pace on him. They played the high line again. They caught Newcastle offside quite a few times, so that worked better than it did against Rayo Vallecano a couple of weeks ago when it was horrible. But again, go back to Marcus Rashford. The problem he's got is game time. You know, they coming in and coming out. You know, Lamine Yamal comes back, Rafinha plays, Lewandowski, that's the preferred threesome. You're sitting on the bench, you're getting 20 minutes here, 10 minutes there, maybe a half there. That's the difficulty, is performing like that when you're not getting consistent game time. But I thought Barcelona in the second half really flexed their muscles.
What did you make of Barca tonight, Luis?
I like it very much, honestly. Going to Newcastle is not an easy game. The intensity and the physicality of the team, it was proven the first 45 minutes where they were pressing man-to-man whole pitch, and that's not easy for Barcelona because you cannot even have time to receive. But they were adapted. They managed those 15-20 minutes where Newcastle was having the best chances. And it's like Ray is talking about in the second half where they found the chance to score the first one and then the second one, and they controlled the game. They understood that it's not about trying to get the third one. It's about having the ball, putting pressure on Newcastle. They made a massive, huge effort in the first 45 or first 60 minutes, and they get a little bit tired, so it was more difficult for them to chase the ball. So it's a very mature team. Let's not forget, it's not the Lamine Yamal there. There is always a threat, and probably we're going to talk a lot when he is not there. But it's a Barcelona that is ready to face the big challenges of the Champions League. Is ready to face physical teams, technical teams, and tactical teams. So I think that this Barcelona is ready to challenge for the trophy.
And that really made it a difficult night for Newcastle. Don't forget they clambered into the Champions League, I believe, via the 5th spot in the Premier League. That was given one of the 5th spots that was given to England. So they clearly are a team that are building. They've lost Alexander Isak. Obviously, they made a new signing. The striker didn't play. He came on. And they're ultimately, match day one, they're playing the team that was, most entertaining team in Europe last year. PSG apart for the second half of the season, they were probably just as good when they won the Champions League. But also they were the Barcelona at one point, I think, were the favourites. Everybody thought they were going to go on and win this Champions League. And they haven't got any poorer. They haven't sold any of their best players. So they've got good continuity. So when you think about it from Newcastle, they gave a good account. I think they learned a lesson tonight is that when you do create the odd chances in these games against elite level teams, you've got to take them. You've got to take them. I'm thinking about Anthony Gordon in the first half. I'm thinking about Harvey Barnes at the back post. And when you don't take those chances at this level of the competition, it generally comes back to bite you in the bum. And that's what happened here. So, it was a good performance from Newcastle, given who they were playing against. But I think just a lesson to them that, when you're playing in the Champions League, particularly against the bigwigs like Barca, you've got to take your opportunities because you know that they're going to create them at the other end and they're probably going to stick the ball in the back of the net, which Marcus Rashford did twice brilliantly.
How are you feeling from the Newcastle perspective after that, Don? What did you make of what you saw from them?
I was fine. I thought it was a fantastic game of football to watch. I think when Newcastle come into the game, it was interesting that he went with the speed merchants at the top end of the pitch rather than Voltemora because he wanted that counter-attacking pace on either flank and through the middle. As Craig said, they should have been 1-0 up when Anthony Gordon had a fresh air shot within probably 6 or 7 minutes, and then Harvey Barnes had a great effort at the far post, so they could have been 2-0 up. I think what Newcastle done tonight, Kay, they made the pitch in the first half very small, so tactically they went man for man on Barca, and we didn't see much of Pedri, didn't see much of De Jong in the first half. And they almost played the game Newcastle, and I think they had to, like a Premier League game, full of intensity, get the crowd engaged, get the crowd latched onto the game, run hard, physically be very, very strong. And they'd done that in spades in the first half. I thought they were fantastic. Then what happened in the second half, Barca started to use their football brain, and Pedri got on the ball and De Jong got on the ball. It all came after Barca's first goal, which the boys will tell you, once you get that shot of confidence, you can play a little bit more, especially away from home, and then you can relax. And then Rashford hits a rocket to make it 2. Then all of a sudden, we just saw Pedri's class and De Jong's class, and they slowed the game down. And they just looked, for about 20, 25 minutes before Newcastle scored, a cut above. So I think Newcastle's takeaway from the second half is when you're playing in the Champions League, there's going to be a time where you're going to have to play clever football, brainy football, slow the game down. You can't just run a million miles an hour all of the time and expect to get some joy. Having said that, I'm contradicting myself because they could have been 2-0 up in the first 15 minutes. So I think Eddie Howe will learn a lot. I think the game was a great one. Barca probably just about edged it when you look at the balance and the flow of the game. But for Newcastle fans, I think they can be quite proud of their performance. They didn't get outplayed. They didn't get embarrassed.
I think one of the differences I noticed was, and it's not a surprise, is that when Barcelona really pressed in the second half, Newcastle struggled with the ball retention. It was all a little bit rushed. So it was coming straight back. When Newcastle pressed, Don mentioned it, Frankie de Jong and Pedri, even under pressure, were able to take the ball in, pop it around the corner, play it out to Koundé, play it back to a centre-half, take up a good position and get them out of that hole, get them out of that press. And that was one of the big differences, the quality that Barca had in the middle of the park. We all know how good Pedri is, but I think de Jong's a tidy footballer as well. He's well prepared to take the ball under pressure, and they did that better than Newcastle, and it's one of the reasons that they got so much possession.
And we're going to get to Napoli in just a moment, but the reason I even mention Napoli is because we've been taking a look with Marcus Rashford doing what he did tonight at other former Manchester United players who've been in action in the Champions League this evening. Marcus Rashford, Rasmus Højlund, Scott McTominay, what they've done this season for their new sides compared to the only goal scored for their former side, as you can see on the other side. And it's talking about the grass might be greener. Is there something in this, Craig?
Well, there's no doubt there is a negative attitude at Manchester United. It cannot be, and we've all sat in dressing rooms, Luis and Don, and when you're on a run that is negative and when the pressure is on, it's no fun. It's not as much fun going to training. It's not as much fun walking into your dressing room and you're seeing that squad, and when you're winning and your team's doing well, a dressing room can be one of the greatest places to go into. Everybody wants to get in first and have a bit of banter and get on that training ground and work hard. And there's no doubt that we said the grass is greener. I think it's just a lot of these players, or these players that were on the graphics, have gone to play with better players. There's no doubt about it. And Rasmus Højlund's gone to play with better players. It's Napoli, isn't it? At Napoli. Scott McTominay left to play with better players at Napoli. Marcus Rashford has left to play with better players, even at Aston Villa, but certainly at Barcelona. And so as long as you don't buckle under the pressure and as long as you go in with the correct attitude and see it as a fresh start, then the chances are you're going to do better than you were doing at Manchester United, because you're playing in a team that's positive, you're playing in a team that's having some success and has had success, you're in a dressing room that's happy, there's continuity, and that gives you a platform to go and play. And if you can't play in that platform, then it's you. It's you. And I think what we've seen is, and it's very early for Marcus Rashford and all these players, Scott McTominay apart, it's early for the other two, but it's definitely easier to go in somewhere that's a happy camp. There's no doubt about it. And we all know that United has not been a happy camp. You've only got to see Ruben Amorim's press conferences. I mean, his chin's on the desk. He can barely pick his chin up when somebody says to him for about the millionth time, "Are you going to change your system?" And he's like, "Oh, just get me out of here." And I think the players sort of sense that, and I'm sorry to go on a little bit, but you go and play with better players at a club that's happy, then you generally play better yourself. And I think we're seeing that with some of these players that were on the graphic.
Do you agree with that, Luis?
Yeah, 100%. Dynamics on teams are huge involved in what a player is feeling. He's talking about, do you want to go to the dressing room, you want to enjoy the training, and you don't want to leave. You are having fun, you are enjoying, and because the team is doing well. In the moment that these kind of dynamics are going against you and you are not involved and you are moved apart and you feel like maybe somewhere else you could do better, there are many different ways to go somewhere else, and maybe if your attitude is not the right one, probably you're not going to do well. But if your head is trying to improve, trying to continue learning, trying to continue developing, and you move to another place, and in the other place that those dynamics are better, that they are a positive and a good environment to go to train, and the results, everything is going to get better. You are going to give 120%. You are going to improve even the performances that you have done, and probably you're going to get even the player that you were looking for the last few years back. So, yeah, I think in the case of Rashford, this is a new start, a new fresh start, and I think he's taking it the way that it has to be taken.
Before we go to Don, who's been in more dressing rooms than you and I have had hot dinners, with all the clubs that he's been at, right, including in one with me for Scotland for quite a few years. They've done, this is isolation. Rasmus Højlund, Marcus Rashford, this is isolation. This is a great evening, particularly for Marcus Rashford. But at the end of the season, there has to be much more of this, or it's been a failure for him. So, you know, I think it's... we don't want to jump the gun here. Marcus Rashford's all of a sudden brilliant again, and Barca are going to buy him, and he's going to be the best player, and all that sort of stuff. This is one evening against one of the sides in the Champions League that is certainly not considered a favourite. Given
that Craig said you have been in many a locker room, Don, which was the worst that you've been in terms of attitude and atmosphere?
Oh, that's an unbelievable question. I think just to add to that list as well, I'd add Anthony Elanga, who had a good couple of years at Forest and was man of the match for the first half tonight. He was brilliant. And I'm not dodging the question, but I was with Ian Darke last night, and we were sat together before we were commentating on the PSG game, and we were literally putting the world to rights on the problems at Man United. And I said to Ian Darke, I said, can you imagine if Ryan Giggs was at Man United now, one of the best wingers we've ever seen in the game? Amrin would have him inverted, playing it infield, trying to get on the ball, trying to be like, you know, getting on the ball closer to number 9. The guy was a winger. So that's what Amad Diallo is on the right-hand side, and that's what Garnacho was. Dressing room-wise, I think when you're losing, Kay, I had a great dressing room at West Ham when we went down with 42 points, which is still a Premier League record. That was a great dressing room because we had brilliant players all around of us. We just didn't perform for whatever reason. When I was young at Liverpool, young, naive, daft, different culture. But Craig's right though, and Luis is right. When you're in a dressing room and you're spiralling as a football club and you're not winning games, and it's hard work, it shows on the training ground, it shows on your match day performances, it shows in your overall demeanour, it shows in the lack of fitness if you're not 100% taking care of your diet or your body or your fitness, if you're not going to the gym, if you think you can skip a few gym sessions because you think you want a little bit easy. So I think that's where most of these Man United boys were, in a downward spiral, and you'll go and see them enjoy themselves and go on and flourish, I would imagine.
Yeah, OK.
I wondered how we got into Man United. I was sitting here scratching my brain and I was thinking, it's that graphic.
Yeah.
And that's a great point Don made, because we played in that era where Ryan Giggs played and David Beckham. You know, Giggs was fast and Beckham was one of the greatest crossers and passers of the ball. And that's like Ruben Amorim saying, you know, as he is in his current team, you know, no, I don't want you crossing the ball, David Beckham. No, I don't want you running down the left wing, Ryan Giggs. I want my wing backs to do that because this is my system. So, you know, that's slightly frustrating. We've had that discussion, of course, and that was a good point on Elanga, who, again, another player who's had to go away and find his feet. And dare I say it, you know, that's probably not going to be the last. There's probably going to be others, depending on what happens on the managerial front, leaving Manchester United and probably going on to play some better football.
Yeah, we're certainly going to find out, but it has been a good night for Marcus Rashford.
Only we can rub Man United's nose in it when they're not even playing.